glad to see you back. I know that my session is last, the graveyard shift, but they always leave the best for last. So I know that many of you have come for this session in particular, knowing exactly what you need to do to be able to get into veterinary science. As you know, it's very hard to get in, but as someone said earlier, it's very hard to get out too. It's tough and it's long hours and hard work. 6 hours, 6 times 6, I agree. But we also want you to have a life outside of that. So let me quickly just run through the programs that we offer here. I'm going to focus only on our 2 undergraduate programs today. So the first one is the BVDc, the Bachelor in Veterinary Science. It's a 6-year program, after which you become a doctor, an animal doctor. But you're not a PhD yet. So if you want to study further and you want to make an academic career for yourself, you'll probably want to go either into an Orange program. In some cases, you can go straight into a master's program and then do your PhD after that, and then you become a real doctor. I'm just kidding. You'll be a real doctor after 6 years already. Okay, so that's the one thing. The other program that we offer is our DVN program. It's a Diploma in Veterinary Nursing. It's a 2-year program at the moment. For a variety of reasons, we've decided to recurriculate this program into a 3-year program. It's not starting as of next year already, but the year thereafter we'll introduce our first bachelors of veterinary nursing students. For now, it's a 2-year program. It's fully packed, way too much work for the poor kids to do in those 2 years, and that's why we want to stretch it over 3. And also what is currently problematic with a 2-year program, it blocks future studies. And so if you want to become a PhD in the end, you would have to have gone via another route. And we want to make that route much more simpler and much more have a much straighter line, and that's why we are recurriculating it as a Bachelor of Veterinary Nursing, which will be a 3-year degree. What's important to know, though, is that we are looking after our 2-year diploma students as well. As part of our curriculation process, we are finding ways to accommodate students who have that gap between the 2-year degree diploma and the postgraduate studies. So we're not letting the guys who are in the system now or the guys who are coming in next year down. We are looking after you in terms of ways to articulate later as well. It's just to streamline the thing that we are doing it in, we are changing it into a 3-year program as of next year. So I'd like to give you a little bit more information about those 2 programs in particular. So BVSC, the first thing there is when do I apply and how do I apply? The applications, as Petra's had mentioned, have already opened up on the 1st of March. Can I ask how many of you have applied already? Okay, that looks good. The others of you are still thinking about it, and after today you might do it or you might never stay clear and decide something else. By the 31st of May, applications close and it's got to be in by that time. It's all online, you go in, you fill it all in there, it's very easy. What matters though is that we select based on your grade 11 marks. Unless you've been in grade 12 last year and you've now traveled around this year and you have nothing else to show, and you haven't done anything else yet academically yet, we will be using your grade 11 marks as your final marks, which is problematic for those of you who are still playing with the girls and doing the parties and soccer and all of that last year. The grade 11 marks are quite important. So for those of you with smaller brothers and sisters, tell them they've got to be really careful about what they do in grade 11. So our first requirement is that you've got to have an APS of at least 32, and then you get selected into our main program. You have to have, however, for English, math and science, 60% minimum. Now, having said that, don't think, oh, that's very low. I've got a good 70, I'll be in. Remember, you compete with everyone else here as well. So if the guy next to you has got 95 or 96, what did that guy in Limpopo have? If he's also applying, when we start ranking, he's probably going to be higher than you. And when the limited places that we do have is full, we cut the line. And unfortunately, all those who didn't make the cut then doesn't get in. People often ask me, they say, my child's got 8 distinctions in matric, and you tell me they're not good enough for vet science. And I said, please don't think like that. Of course they're good enough for vet science. It's just that the places available were given to the guys with 9 distinctions in matric. So it's one of those things. You compete with one another. So if you come in with only 60, you're probably going to be struggling year after year to get in. Your chances are very low. Okay, so try and get those English, math, and science marks as high as possible. Try and get your APS score as high as possible, but that has to happen in grade 11. So if you're in grade 12 now, it's too late, because whatever was happening there, those are the marks that we're going to use for school leavers. Okay, but don't give up. Don't go into tears now. Wait till later. We'll give you a plan B. There's a plan B and a plan C, so don't worry. The other option is to go through the extended program route. So for those of you who didn't get 32 APS or 60% for math, science, and English, if your APS is at least 30 and you have at least 50 for math, English, and science, we will still consider you, but then we route you through the Mamelodi extended program. So it's a 1-year program that gets added to your 6 years, and in that year they catch up. So you take math, you take the physics, you take the chemistry, everything that you would do in your normal first year, but we extend the period over 18 months, and that time is then invested to get you up to scratch. So by the end of that time, you would not only be having timetable management, you'll have personal life skills, you'll have communication, you'll have stress management, you'll have all sorts of other things given to you, personal attention in terms of your academics over that first 18 months. And then after the first 18 months, you will join the other students into the program in the second semester of their first year. By that time, you've caught up, and we know that we can make sure that you'll be successful within the remaining time of the program. All right, once again, don't bank on that. Okay, don't bank on anything. Once again, if you're not in there in the first one, the competition for that second group is also quite stiff. All right, other than your grade 11 marks, we then also look at your value-added form. Now, you might have heard about this. We have it. Medical campus has got it for their programs as well. And what we do there is we make sure that when you come here, you haven't spent all your time, and I'm worried about the 6 times 6. If you spend all your time only studying, it means that we've got a brilliant head that comes in, but the first little bit of wind from the side, we roll you over and you go into a panic and you can't cope. So what we really want is a person that has balance in their life, who is good at academics because they sat and they applied their minds and they worked real hard. But we also want kids who have a life. We want you to be balanced. We want you to have been playing sports and being the public speaker of the year and have the drama award and have been the cyclist in your school. We want you to come in as a balanced person, because then we know that you're probably going to be a good vet once you're out there. Because if you only come in as a brain and you get a little bit of competition from your groups, it's very hard. I know that students come in their first year. I mean, all of you who sit here, you're probably the bright Johnny and Jills in your school. You know, I know how it works. You're the head boy, the head girl. Grade 11 marks are superb. You're the top this, the top that in your class. You come in here with a healthy self-image. And then in year 1, you join all the others from all the other schools with the exact same profile. And then in your first state, you get 65%. And you want to die, because you've never had such a bad mark in your entire life. And to top it all, you're not the top of the class either. There were kids who actually got 80% in the class. And it's at that point where we want you to be a balanced person, to realize, you know what, it's good enough if you pass with anything 65 and up. I always say you're safe. Less than 65, I always say study harder. But I mean, it makes good sense for us to know that the kids that we pull into the program have the academic potential to be successful, but also come in as well-rounded human beings with an interest not only just in the academics, but in other things as well that will make them more resilient when things go bad at some point. All right, so the value-added form has to be in by the end of July. Currently, we're finalizing the program, the form. It will be ready and available in the middle of April. You can go into your portal, you'll find it there. Make sure that you fill it in with all the experience that you've got, put everything that you think of in there, and if you're worried about something, do come and speak to our student administration office to help you and guide you through that form. It has to be in by the end of July. We give you until the end of July because maybe there's something that you still want to do, so in the holiday season you can still go and get some experience and so on. So we know by experience, let's put it at end of July, then we know that everyone is stuff is in. Then you also need the national benchmark test, as you've heard. Through JuniorTukkie, you can go to some preparation courses for that. It's quite important that you get good marks in that national benchmark test. You'll understand now that some of the schools are very, let's not make a judgment call. Let's just say schools are different. Some schools give you really a hard time in grade 11 because they say if we make the test extremely hard, and you get good marks for that, then by the time you write the matric exam, it's so easy peasy. You'll just be able to go through it. And there's some good merit in that. Other schools say, oh man, we know that this is very important for you. You need to get these marks to get in. Let's push the marks a little bit, or let's lower the standards a little bit to be sure that your marks are good, so at least you get selected. So because we can't really base our only impression of your academic ability on that mark of the school, we also bring the national benchmark test in. And so the national benchmark test, everyone writes the exact same test, marked at the exact same standard, and at least that gives us a good indication of where the differences lie. So that mark, that test, we're not administering it. You've got to go to that website, as I've got on there. Book your time in one of those tests and write the test. Once you've written it, their administrative systems do give the marks through to the university, so you don't have to worry about us getting your marks. We'll get it from them if you've applied. What is quite important, though, is book your test now already. But don't book it for now because you haven't done all the math and science in matric yet. So some of the questions might still be foreign to you because you haven't covered that work in matric yet. Try and book your your test for that June-July period, because if you write your exam then you would at least have covered all the work and you would be well prepared to take the test. But if you wait until then to book it, you probably not get space, and then you will have to write in the second semester, which means that we won't have your marks available and we won't be able to select you for next year. All right, quite important. All right, so let's just talk about the process afterwards. This is also something that people often struggle with and then get very upset if they didn't get selected into the first round. Important to know that we have space for 190 students in any given year. And the reason why we limit it to 190 is because we only have so many horses, so many pigs, so many theatres, and we want to make sure that the quality of the education that your student will get when they are here at Onderstepoort is of high standard. We can only do that if we can give personal attention as well. So 190 is the absolute limit that our faculty at this stage can accommodate. So we don't take all 190 in at once. We have 3 different points at which we select. So the first one is in September this year. We will then take all the evaluated forms, all the NBT results, all the grade 11 marks that we got. We'll look at the school leavers and we'll look at those students who have previous university experience but who maybe didn't do the right subjects. They will then be selected, and when they get selected, they will join the BVDc 1 program in Hatfield, because the first year of our course is presented there. You only come here on from your second year onwards. You will join the BVDc 1 program in Hatfield in January 2016. Okay, there's about 100 or so students that get selected in that batch. Now people go haywire. They go into tears. Their mums, the mummy is here. They start phoning. You come and sit. I've got a little tissue container on my desk, and we always measure the despair based on the number of tissues the mum went through while you guys were sitting there. And it's a joke, but it's a joke, but it's not funny. It's serious stuff. I know that if this is your life and this is where you want to be, then everything counts. So if you didn't make it at this point, in September you don't get a letter that says you've been selected and you're now very worried. Then what we want you to do is to make as your second choice, your second option when you do your application, indicate that you want to study BSc Biological Science, Agricultural Science, or Zoology. Those are the kinds of courses that typically people in those programs do the exact same first basic science here as our students do. So when you have physics, you've got chemistry, you've got math, you've got biology, you've got medical terms, and those kinds of things, exact same subjects as our students. In fact, if you get selected into the BSc Biological Science program, you will sit next to the students who were selected that are VET students. Exact same program, exact same curriculum, exact same assessment criteria, all the same. So then you compete with all your friends who didn't get in straight from school, but who is now in that group also attempting. And what we then do in July next year, you have to, of course, apply again next year because we only look at students who apply. So you have to then apply again next year by end of May 2016. But then we only look at those students who are in those courses, who have previous university experience and comply with the minimum criteria. So if you've done then the basic physics, you've done the basic chemistry, you've done those basic courses that are the same as the ones that our students have to do, then we can consider you again. And then instead, you sit in the same classes with those students again in the next semester, but now you're no longer a BSc Biological student, science student, you are now a BVDc student. So you still sit in the same classes, the only difference is you've now changed your course. All right, so you join the BVDc 1 program in the second semester of next year. So that's your second opportunity. Okay, if at that point you were still not lucky enough to get in, and luck's got nothing to do with it. It's got lots of hard work and sweat and blood and all of that. Then in September, we once again look at students who now have other university experience. So it's now we're not only just looking at people in those biological sciences in the first year, but anyone else who's been at university and has the right subjects that complies with our entire first year curriculum. So it means you've done all the subjects throughout your years at university that are the exact same as the ones that our students have. If we can tick all those boxes, then we can select you into the BVDc 2 program. And then you don't have to repeat your first year. So your year wasn't a waste. It doesn't add time to your studies. It just means that your first year you might have studied something else, but then from your second year onwards, you migrate into the BVDc program and you go from second year onwards. Second year you come to this lovely campus. Then the fun starts, or the tears, depending on how willing you are to study. All right. What we do in January is we don't have a real selection process. It's really just catching up. There might be some students in the first year who failed, so there's spaces that gets opened up in the second year. But there might also be second years who failed, who then take those spaces up again. And then there might be students who applied, got selected, and then decided to go and do something else. They don't take their spaces up. There might be one or two of those. But I must tell you, we typically find that if people do get in, they clutch onto those spaces and they hold on to it and they don't not show up. But I mean, typically with those, little changes, there might be 4 or 5 spaces available in January, and then we go back to that list of May, the previous year, and we just continue on that list and select 3 or 4 or 5, however many students, spaces there are. All right. So I'm hoping that gives you a little bit of peace of mind to know that it's not only just one opportunity, you've got another and another. There are 3 distinct opportunities. And even thereafter, some of our students don't get in after their first year. They then continue with whatever they do, agricultural studies. Some of them finish their entire degree. Only by the time they get to their honors year do they actually get selected. We've had a student the other day doing their master's student studies, and only at this point now do they get selected. But if this is your life and this is what you want to do, you'll stay and you'll stick. And you'll try again and again and again. It's part of what makes you a good vet, is that tenaciousness that I'm not going to let go. This is my passion, which is what makes the process, while long, still worth the wait.